you can straighten it a little bit, that would help.
The machine.
Or move up, since you refuse to sit straighter.
Listen, you gotta lean. at all times.
Oh, shit, we got plenty of room. There we go. Make sure you see my shirt. Wonderful shirt. All right, who directed this shit? I mean, this wonderful high art movie.
Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, this is Justin, and we just saw The Machine. It was directed by the same guy who did Keanu, we just found out. Peter Atencio. He's most known for Key and Peele, and that's pretty much it. So, if you've seen Keanu, it's kind of the same vibe of that movie. I thought probably Key and Peele kind of felt a little bit more like a real movie than this, but that was probably a budgetary thing. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of your typical stand-up comedian decides to make a movie. The plot is sort of there, the writing is sort of there, the acting and directing is sort of there, but ultimately, if you find it funny, that's kind of the only thing that matters.
Hey, we did laugh sometimes.
I thought it was actually good. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
I wouldn't say it was a great movie, but it was an enjoyable movie. It's been like our track record this year, actually. That's like everything we've seen together this year. Like, well, it wasn't good, but I enjoyed it. Except for Guardians. Guardians was actually good.
Oh yeah, that was good.
But yeah, very much in that same vibe of the Sisu and Renfield, except for not quite as violent as those, although it did have moments in there.
I thought it would have more too, but I do like Mark Hamill. I'd like to see him more things. It is always hilarious to me when occasionally he says something and I just imagine the Joker.
Yeah,
saying
you hear the
it.
Joker.
Yeah, it's just it's always great.
Because whenever he dips into his lower register, you're like, that's the Joker. There he is. I found him. It's not going to be like a high art movie, and I don't think anybody.
I don't think anyone.
Yeah, nobody's gonna have that expectation coming into it.
You see the machine stand up, and you understand who he is.
Right. I will say though that like they do still attempt certain things. Like there was certain emotional threads to this movie. I especially liked the thing that they had going on with his classmate Ashley. I thought that was really compelling when they actually focused on it. There were some parts that were really glossed over because it's not the point of the movie, but there was like, oh, they're actually investing some time and energy into some of these things. Also, there's a lot of stuff with family in it, obviously. His dad's there the whole time.
Yeah, I have to say I was much more into the classmates than I was with his family. I got the whole father connection that they were driving home with pretty much every character in this thing, and I appreciate that. Outside of that, his family. I was happier when they were off screen.
The family dynamic was pretty flat, even with the father-son thing. It's kind of just like it's enjoyable because it's Bert Kreischer and Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
There was a couple of moments that did still kind of work, but for the most part, the only reason I liked it at all was like they kept undercutting it with humor and kind of maybe in an annoying way because you don't let yourself get to the serious parts, but the humor was good enough you don't really care that much. Like there's this one part where they're talking about advice and Mark Hamill gives him like the most convoluted, like useless piece of crap advice ever, and Bert just goes like, wow, you really shoehorned in that advice in there. And I was like, yeah, exactly. That was the perfect reaction to that. So there was a lot of, I mean, obviously him having that background in stand-up comedy, a lot of the best humor came from just either a quick reaction to something or somebody in the background saying something that shouldn't have really mattered, but it was really funny, so you thought it was hilarious. Like, even they're in this house, and there's just, like, little Russian kids everywhere. The one kid drops his teddy bear, and you just didn't go, yet. In the background. That was so funny to me. I was like, what the fuck? Just a lot of, like, really quick, really subtle stuff. And there's still, obviously, really over-the-top and ridiculous stuff, too. But for me, the humor that really hit home for me was just the more subtle, quick reaction to stuff. I forget if they were in the train station or where they were at this time, but there was graffiti on the walls. And the most obvious, or actually it was the only piece of graffiti that was in English, was just Tom is fat, as a reference to his podcast host, Tom Segura. And I was like, that's great. I enjoyed that.
So that's what that was.
Yes.
I didn't get that. But.
A difference between this and the other movies we were just comparing it to, like Renfield, for instance, is the action was really bad. The action was terrible, and granted, most of it was for comedy anyway, so that was fine. But it was just like every time there was like a new action sequence, especially with like there's this female Russian badass lady, and it was just like, can this scene be over?
Oh
This
my
is
gosh.
so lame.
I have to say, some of the moves she was doing, they seemed like solid, you know, joint manipulation,
Sure.
get the weapon around, choke you with the weapon,
Move the camera and
get the gun.
shake
But
and-
like when she struck people, it looked like the lightest shots in the world.
Honestly, Burt Kreischer,
It is pretty funny.
Burt Kreischer's fight scenes may have been more believable,
Yeah, definitely.
and which is hilarious because one, he's this fat, you know, unathletic guy. Two, it's him doing his own stunts most of the time. I mean, he's not the guy that fell down the hill. You can
No,
tell
no,
because
no,
they
no.
covered his face the whole time.
Yeah.
But like when he was doing that big fight scene, I was like, that's him. That is him. And I'm
They're gonna
sure
have to
he
use
had,
them as much as they can.
right, and I'm sure he had wires for a couple of the things, but like, I was like, he's actually, for a stand community, he's not even an actor. He's doing okay. Like, good job.
He's fueled by the vodka.
Yeah, I wondered, I guess it was just probably water. He drank a lot of water for this movie. But yeah, no, the fights were terrible. But once again, it's like, you're not coming to this movie for
No,
that.
no, but they were pretty funnily terrible.
Yes, and when they were trying to be funny, they were even better.
Yeah.
There's a couple of, like, most of it, it's like the action for the most part isn't supposed to be taken seriously. It's
No,
means to-
hers felt like it was much more supposed to be.
it was
seriously.
to a degree, but it was like a means to an end. It wasn't like, oh, this is my passion making fight scenes. You can tell the people involved
Yeah.
aren't. It's not the John Wick choreographer. It's some Joe Schmo doing it. It's like, we have to do this, so we're doing it. Kind of fight scene.
strike, spit and elbow.
Yeah, and then shake the camera as much as possible, cut as many times as possible, so you can't tell what's happening anyway. But it's like, did you really care? Or were you just laughing at the humor? Because the humor, although not perfect either, was pretty good. I enjoyed it.
It was funny.
So that's what we had to think without spoilers. It's enjoyable. I think, going with those expectations of it as a stand-up comedian making a movie. And I mean, yes, there's Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy. It's not one of those guys. That's the expectation. That's the bar for this movie. And I think you'll have a good time with it. Thanks for watching, guys. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. Bye. Spoilers.
We talked about the action in this movie.
Sure.
And I do like a lot of it. I really thought it was going to go in the direction of the gun scene.
He becomes the machine.
Yeah,
by
I thought he was going to be the
accident. Yeah.
accidental machine the
I
whole time.
kinda
That
thought
was going to be
too.
great.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, but yeah, he's always the machine. Always when he drinks vodka, but he's just really funny guy. Makes everybody laugh. Has a great time with them. Gets
Right.
really really drunk.
Because even right after he says, I'm going to shoot him in the leg, but he's so
Yeah.
bad he accidentally shoots him in the head.
And I guessed he was going to shoot him in the head.
Who then shoots the next
Never
guy
guessed
and then
that.
shoots the next guy, which
Never
was
guessed
funny.
any of that.
And then you cut to the Russian lady who goes like, oh, wow. And so it's like from that moment you thought, oh, like they all think, oh, he is that badass. He's just got a fake, stupid... You think, oh, from that moment on, then people are going to think, oh, he is that badass. He's just got like this fake, stupid personality or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they never bring that up again. That's never a thing again.
The closest it ever came back to it was when he punched through the slit throat.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of it again, and then that was the end of it.
Yeah, which that was the first like violent moment in the movie. At least like, okay, I mean, I know people got shot in the head, but it was like it was
the triple headshot.
it was PG-13 violence.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, fair.
That was the first time I was like, oh, we're doing this. Where slits his neck open, and then he goes to punch
just a
him,
slight slit. Too.
and then punches into the neck hole. It was like, I can't get my. I was like, oh my god, okay, we're doing this.
I was pretty excited for the accidental machine.
Yeah.
He's just gonna be accidental because like the final fights, he was very serious in the final fight, very
Yeah.
into the machine character. He drank the vodka, or whatever.
I mean, he used like a fucking roulette table to
Yeah, yeah.
block bullets.
Nobody shot his legs.
It's also wood. It's not gonna
Hey, but it's being held by the machine. Yeah. It is now part of it.
take that, Captain America.
He did toss it too.
Yeah. So I mean, there was definitely levels of stupid violence there, but it was kind of seemed like a missed opportunity to go that route.
I just really preferred it when it was the accidental stuff. It
Yeah.
was still funny when it was on purpose, and everybody else on purpose made sense. But
Yeah.
for him, I really liked the accidental. I thought he was going to be just an accidental John Wick.
Right.
Just
And-
everything he does is crazy and turns into him just massacring people by accident, which would have been hilarious.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Like, there felt like there was more than one moment in this movie where there was like a good idea that just didn't fully get utilized. So, Bert, this whole movie is having like a crisis of confidence where he thinks he's like a terrible person, and he has to kind of be taught throughout. Oh, your stupidity is actually good for various reasons. One of which is when you were on the train, you may have stolen stuff with the mafia, but you entertaining them kept people from dying. And so then he's like, oh wow, okay. And then they go, and his dad obviously had just been doing that same thing. He knew that his son was going to be in danger, so he threw him off the train first of all, and then starts partying with them so they'd be distracted. And then that's never brought up. Like, he goes like, you betrayed me, and he's like, no, I didn't, I pushed you off the train on purpose. And then they drop it, and he's like, there's an obvious correlation here that we're just not talking about.
Hey.
We're not talking about this.
It was unspoken. They're father and son. They understand.
Also, like the
And he was on a lot of drugs at the time. Had unprotected sex with that woman.
Molly Parton.
Yeah, Molly Parton. Yeah, no, Mark Hamill was phenomenal.
But yeah, there was just a lot of things that just kind of felt like, I don't know, like they forgot to resolve it entirely. Like, especially, okay, so the biggest plot point in this whole movie, other than resolving the issues with his dad, and this may have actually to me felt bigger, was the getting the ring back for Ashley. And then when they open the thing, the ring is right there in the middle of the jewelry case, right?
Yeah.
And then he ends up not giving it back to her, except for he sends it in the mail. And that felt like such a reshoot. Like, they were like, shit, we forgot to do this. Here, write a quick 2-second scene. That's what it felt like. It's like, how did we not put more time and energy into this? I guess because it's like they had a romantic thing and they needed to focus more on the
His
wife
family, yeah.
and the family.
I actually never expected him to go see her. I totally expected him to just send it if he ever actually found it.
But it was just so empty feeling. And
Yeah, no, I
it
agree.
just came across as like there was too many ideas, too many cooks in the kitchen. Like, and I know there was only 2 writers, and we said that, but it felt like there was multiple ideas that were competing against each other, and they tried to do them all instead of just doing the good ones.
It was a lot. I like their addition of her,
Yeah.
but in the end, it really just distracted from what they really wanted to focus on, which was his family.
Yeah,
And
but
their father-
they clearly cared more about the Ashley arc and how much better it was written, how much more interesting it was. But then I don't know if it was Bert's thing going like, hey, I'm a married man, we should put in that I have a wife and children, make it like, so my wife doesn't, my real life wife, because clearly they were actors,
Yeah.
but like my real life wife won't get mad when apparently there's some woman that I want to have a fling with from college. Like, so I don't know if it was that or if it was just the other writer or whatever, but they ended up deciding that like the wife and family is the way we're gonna go, but they didn't eliminate the Ashley character, and so it just felt hollow on both ends, which is frustrating.
Yeah, he either needed to see her beforehand or after. At some point, he needed to interact with her as an adult here.
Something we needed to, like, that's just so unsatisfying. Like, what would have been great is if we could have had a scene where he had the temptation of getting back together with Ashley, and then he realized, no, I love my wife more. This was a thing in college. It's over. It's 20 years ago.
See, but then that would have worked
It would've.
if you kick out Mark Hamill's character, get rid of the father storyline, and she joins him in Russia.
There's a lot of things we could have done. And the problem is, like I said, there was too many things and we didn't fully commit to any of them. Because even the dad relationship, and they put the most energy toward that,
Yeah.
still felt incomplete.
That Oh no, I wasn't betraying you. Oh, that just happened too quickly.
Yeah,
And
there was no real closure to it.
I get it. They were still doing the comedy. He's high on drugs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's got to be the closure. But at the same time, they're gonna be shot or gonna nearly be shot by the villains because they're still around.
Right.
So
All of the dramatic pieces of this movie were kind of left hanging a little bit. Like they weren't fully fleshed out.
Unless they were a flashback.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, even the thing, I mean, he's supposedly coming to some sort of understanding with his younger self, which is told because he starts hallucinating after eating a weed brownie.
A 20-year-old weed brownie.
Okay, does 20-year-old weed make you hallucinate in the woods?
That might not be the weed. That might be whatever happened to that brownie over 20
The
years.
eggs.
Yeah.
The batter.
I'm gonna guess either that or somebody was lying about the weed.
Yeah. He did say that it was like reverse Quaaludes. That's how he described them, which does not sound like weed.
That sounds like there's something you eat there. I would get that checked out.
Cross-laced with something.
Maybe get a new dealer. Something.
But yeah, so I mean, obviously it's a comedy. Obviously the main focus is the comedy. But it is just a little bit disappointing when it's like there are legitimate, interesting, dramatic points that are compelling and then kind of just never fulfilled.
They wanted those dramatic points. They pushed them hard.
Yeah.
Beginning of the movie, all the flashbacks, and then they just rapid fire closure at the end. Shows up to the family, they all hug, kisses the
They're
wife.
fine now.
Cool.
His daughter apologizes for something.
She needed to cool off. She went on vacation, man.
For a weekend.
Smoke some weed with her friends.
Yeah. Maybe she had some of those brownies and was seeing shit. I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, just that's why we say, like, it's so enjoyable, so funny, if you have the correct expectations. I mean, obviously, it's a stand-up comedian making his first movie. It's not gonna be high art, so the less you expect that, the less you expect even decent writing, the bigger you will be. Because yeah, the writing is clearly not the focal point. It's not the strength of this movie. It is about the comedy, and the comedy works. It really does.
I mean, everybody's pretty funny. Bert's funny. Mark Hamill's funny. The Russian woman's funny.
The guy who played the younger version of Bert, that's a semi-famous actor.
I know him, but I
Jimmy
cannot think of his...
Tatro, I'm not how to say his name. He was good too. I don't know that he looked or acted or sounded remotely like Bert Kreischer, but he was fine.
He was fine for what they wanted him to do.
Yeah. The moral of the story is be like Urkel.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, we do need to talk about that.
You need to ride the balance. You need to have balance. Which, by the way, hold on, because at first he compares it to The Nutty Professor, which I don't know if you've seen any of The Nutty Professors.
A long time ago.
But it's the same basic message of, you know, accepting your real self, but also like trying to be somewhere in the middle between this false personality and this other personality, which is then what they allude to with Family Matters with Steve Urkel, which I haven't seen a lot of Family Matters, so I don't know if that's a proper explanation of how the show deals with it. I don't know.
Kind of fair. I mean, he becomes Stefan Urkel to be cool and popular at first.
Right.
And I did see the whole show again. I watched it when Nick at Night was on all the time.
But it's like they brought up the Nutty Professor first.
Yeah.
And he uses like, that's exactly how my life is. And then later when they bring up Family Matters, and she's like, that's exactly like your life is. And he's like, oh my God, that's what you need to do. Once again, they don't fulfill this obvious correlation by pointing out that it's an obvious correlation. They just let it go. Why? Just say something.
Why do they let it go? Because it's not important, Simon. What's important is, did I do that? Okay?
But can you say that with a Russian accent?
I'm trying to think my Russian accent. Do vidanya. Did I do that?
God.
Dolph Lundgren.
Oh yeah, and he called the one guy Kaiser Sose.
Yeah, Kaiser. That was funny. Yeah, over here, Kaiser Sose. Who's Kaiser Sose? You know this guy?
Get him.
Give me my watch. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about the watch at all.
That's because it didn't matter.
But it had to do with the fathers.
But it didn't matter.
And there was Russian misogyny.
Also, apparently, you can.
Russia's not PC, guys.
If you ever wondered, you can go from being a salesman to the head mafia guy of all of Russia.
Yeah, in Russia.
In 20
you can.
years.
In Russia, you can.
It's easy.
It just happens, man.
And then you get an undisclosed breathing problem that is.
He's old.
Okay.
He's old. He's dying.
Also weird was that she shot him because he's like, you're too much of a girl. You can't even kill your brother. And then she kills him. It's like, he was literally asking you to kill your brother and then you kill him? I thought she was going to shoot her brother.
I thought so too.
And then she shot him and I was like, okay, that works too. But like now your brother's still gonna try and take over the empire, and like it's up to then everybody to choose sides, so you're fracturing the empire, except for they all chose her for some reason.
She shot the boss.
Okay.
You kill the boss, you become the boss.
No.
That's classic mob. That's
No.
classic mob rule.
Another thing that was an obvious reference to the stand-up, because in his stand-up, everybody in Russia is named Igor. And then in this movie, they mistake one Igor for another, which is an obvious reference, and they don't even make a joke out of it. They're just like, oh, wrong Igor. Okay, moving on. It's like, no! There's a joke here! Make the joke!
But that was the joke. We got the reference. We understood.
But most people probably didn't, because it's not pointed out.
Hey.
This isn't supposed to be artsy, subtle, artistic referencing shit. This is supposed to be a joke by a comedian.
Hey, I saw the stand-up 3 days ago, so I got it. If I hadn't, I wouldn't have got that at all. But
yeah, because there was no joke. It was just like, oh, you're not Igor,
it's
you're
an
Igor.
inside joke. Come on. That's good comedy.
No, it's not.
That's
not even comedy.
That's that stand-up level of comedy. We just don't get it down here.
Yeah, the rule number one of stand-up comedy: make sure you don't ever make your jokes remotely noticeable. People might just not even notice their jokes. That's a good thing. All that being said, I enjoyed it.
It was funny.
It was. It just could have been a lot better. But I honestly did enjoy it. We're critiquing it and it deserves it, but this is not a good movie. Listen, and that's fine.
I just saw Fast 10 last week, and did you think we did not bust on that the whole time? Of course we did. But I loved it. Loved every second of it. And Jason Momoa.
You didn't get kicked out of the theater?
We were in the back.
You were busting on the whole time?
Oh God,
Jason Momoa? Anyway, let's wrap up the video. Is there anything else before we do?
Rosh just gotta stop trying serious roles.
Doesn't have fucking anything to do with this.
He should just not try to play serious movie roles. Because I kind of...
That's what we had to... Thanks for watching. They're gonna have no idea that we've just sat here talking about nothing for half an hour. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Shut up. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new here. Bye. God damn it, dude.